welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to demonstrate a 2-2 rib on the top and a 2-2 rib continued down the top of the foot. I just took it off the machine, so it's not grafted yet, but as you can, if you can see, there's a 2-2 rib at the top of the foot. It looks complicated, and it's not really complicated, though I do have trouble dropping ribber stitches because I forget when to take the ribber off, so hopefully we'll get that right. I also want to demonstrate a different kind of selvage edge, which is quite nice. However, I have yet to use this selvage without at one spot or another dropping a couple stitches. So let's see if in this part of the video we can remedy that. I want to give a shout out to the inspiration for this selvage edge is from this book I discovered. Well, it's not verbatim from this book, because when I try and do it the way she's describing, or at least the way I think she's describing it, it doesn't come out at all. Like the stitches are way too tight, but I modified it. It's a hung hem. It's from this book, CSM Selvages, and it is by Kathy Roletter. And like I said, it's not exactly the way she describes it or the way I think she's describing it. But I tried to modify it so that it worked on my machine. And now I can't find the one. I think it's just called hung hem ribbing, 2-2 hung hem ribbing, or something like that. 2-row hung hem ribbing. That's hard to say. Okay, so we're going to try again. This is the second pair of socks I've tried on. It's lovely on the side where it works. And then over here, it appears that I had dropped a couple of stitches. That might be, maybe I dropped them before I did the ribbing. But I will demonstrate how I accomplished this. And let's see if we can do it flawlessly. And these socks are for me, so I will, I'll just fix the top with a needle. It'll be fine. And I did a little bit longer. I don't usually do them quite this long for just regular socks, but these are for like to wear with my boots. Okay, so let's get started. I will switch cameras and be back. Okay, so here we are at the machine, and I'm just starting by applying cast on bonnet to every other stitch, just like we normally do to cast on. Now, one of the differences, and one of the reasons I'm intrigued by this 2-row hung hem, is that if you think about it, if you normally do a 2-1 ribbing, you have to start the ribber with a 1-1, because, why is that? Because it will unravel otherwise. And so I have a better luck with a 1-1 ribbing for a couple of rows and then switch. But with this selvage edge, which is the hung hem, 2-row hung hem, you don't have to do that. Ideally, you can just knit your plain rows and then hang the hem and then apply the ribber, and then, this is in a nutshell what we're going to do, install your ribber needles and then carry on. Now, the issue that I appear to be having is I'm missing stitches when I hang the hem. I don't really understand how this is happening, but we're going to do it together on this video and we'll see what happens. And I would encourage you to learn along with me. Maybe you can learn something, put in the comments. just crank along with me and see what you come up with. I did have to modify it the way that I understood it. Now, it could be that I just wasn't understanding what this author was saying, but doing it exactly as I understood it written in the book, the hem was too tight. It was only 2 rows and it was too tight, and I couldn't even get around the whole cylinder. So what I did is and I'll show you rather than talk about it. I'll just show you as soon as I get some yarn on. One of the other things I did, whoopsie, let's move this for a moment. Sorry about that. One of the other things I did is that I did not use the heel spring on the first 3 rows, because that was another way that I could loosen up the stitch a little bit, and I think that might be also why my hung hem on this, where it did turn out fine, I think that's why it's a little bit ruffly, because it's a little bit looser than the rest of the sock. But this is a learning process, right? And so my main goal is to help you use your ribber in this series. And I also am always trying to learn new ways to do things, and selvages are a challenge. So I don't know that they're a challenge, but I'm always up for trying something different. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm casting on with just my normal cast on bonnet. I'm moving some stitches around so that all the loops load. And if you're knitting along with me, super duper. We'll have fun here. Yipes. Okay, go. There we go. Let's see, that worked. It worked. My goodness, here's another one. Yeah, so hopefully you're casting on as well, or maybe you're just watching me fumble around here. Oh, looky, looky. There is close latch. All right, let's see. We're golden. I have to be super careful because earlier today I almost rolled on my little dog's ear because he gets right under my feet. Tuck that baby in, Charlie. Okay. Now, on a in-out selvage, which is what I normally do, or what else is it called? It's called something else. I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. Normally, you would cast on every other needle. But if you're doing a hung hem, it doesn't matter. You can cast on all of them. You don't put your ribber dial in until after you've hung the hem on the selvage. Hanging the hem is what this edge is a teeny weeny tiny hung hem. So I'm going to crank around and I'm going to stop at my mark here, and I'm going to add in my project yarn. That's a good boy, Charlie. He moved so I wouldn't get his ear. Good. Poor baby. Napping is such hard work. All right, get my waist yarn off, add in my project yarn. I'm using Active from Supergarn in Germany or Prague, Czech Republic. It comes from both places. And here we go. Adding in my project yarn at my mark, which would be at D. Making sure that my yarn is loading in this needle. and I do not have the heel spring on. And I'm going to start counting my rows. This is row number 1 that I'm knitting. Row number 1. Now, I'm going to complete 2 entire rows all the way to this mark here. And I'm going to start a 3rd row. And this is the only way I can get the stitches loose enough to do this. And I don't think that's what she's suggesting in the book. I think that's why the result of mine is a little rufflier. And I'm really not sure why I keep missing stitches on the finished sock. So this time around, I'm going to stop between what we would call B. If our markers on our machine, we're calling this one here A, B, C, and D if we divide our machine into four pieces, quarters. So I have done 2 complete rows and 3/4 of another row. Now I'm going to take my weight off, and I'm going to start picking up the purl bump on the first row that we knitted. I'll pick up the purl bump. And this is why I don't understand why it looks, when I get done, it doesn't look like I missed anything, but I am somehow not getting all of these. So I suppose one way would be to count them, but if all my needles are full, yep. Let's just see what happens. And maybe in the comments, depending on my result here, you can help me problem solve this. All right. And again, this is with my heel spring is not engaged. I think I see what happens. I think when you pull that stitch up, you instinctually want to go past that this one gets buried a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. I'm learning. The main thing is we're going to do this 2 ribbing, and you're going to learn how to put it down the top of your sock, which is really nice looking. All right, I'm going to be quiet now so that I can speed up the camera. Moving ahead as you need to and putting downward pressure down. Now we will knit with all the needles in 1 more row past what we're picking up to close the edge. So this is where I started picking up the loops, and this is where I'm knitting my 3rd row, and then we're going to knit 1 complete row past where I picked up. And I'm going to finish picking up now that I've moved my yarn carrier around. I can go back and Okay, cranking around to complete that row. Notice that I did loop that tail end back in, and I should have stopped over here. That's going to mean my ribber is going to start ribbing in a different place than I want it to, but we're going to go with it. Let's see what happens. You know, some of this is just learning your own machine. Alrighty. Yeah, that means we're going to start putting in ribber needles over here. That's okay. We're going to do it. And I'm going to start with that one. So it's a little bit different than when we do them the other way around because we're not fishing for the yarn. We've already got an established stitch. So we're just going to reach down and grab that stitch, put it in the slot that matches up, and misplace one of my Allen wrenches. And technically I would really prefer to move this over just a little bit. It's a little bit off, but it'll be okay. And then I'm going to skip 2, and we're doing 2, 1. So there we go. I'm going to skip 2. I'm going to pick up that loop with my hook and slide it in. That one. And just like I mentioned before, you want the latch open on the ribber needle, and you want the yarn is resting in the hook of that needle. Skipping 2. And I think you can see when I'm doing this, I'm picking this up. I'm twisting this. See where my finger is down here? Right down here. I'm pushing back on this needle, flipping it sideways and bringing it above that spring. Then I'm just sliding that needle down and grabbing that stitch. Picking it up, popping it out, putting it above the spring, and grabbing that needle or that stitch and seating it in that slot. And as you, now at this point, our heel spring has not been engaged, but at this point when I start cranking with the ribber engaged, I am going to put the heel spring on because I find that it helps me not drop ribber stitches. 1, 2, pick up that one. Excuse me. Oops. 1, 2, pick up that one. Bet you can only see my hand. There we go. I have a new camera to try, but it's not ready yet today. So hopefully in the very near future, I will be using a camera that does better close-ups so you can see what I am doing. I got it for Christmas. We are just coming out of Christmas 2025. And I hope you all had a lovely holiday if you celebrate the holiday. We do, and we did, and it was all wonderful. Some of my kids came home. We had a lovely time. We had another relative here visiting. That was lovely. Went to a very nice, two actually very nice Christmas Eve services. Yeah, that was very pretty. Okay, so working your way around the cylinder. You're working along with me, just picking up those stitches. So I also want to encourage you that as you try like selvage edges and that sort of thing that are different than what you have been doing, you know, part of the learning process is that we're going to make mistakes, or it's not going to turn out the way it looks in the picture, or sometimes I find written instructions to be challenging sometimes, depending on the person. More on that in an upcoming video. There is an item trending, I think, in hand knitting circles. That is a hood with kind of a built-in turtleneck scarf kind of thing. And it is very cool. I bought the pattern, not because I do hand knit, but I prefer to machine knit. And I was curious if I could adapt something like this, not the same thing, because I don't want to copy their pattern, and it really is lovely. But man, I really struggled to read. The instructions seem overly complicated to me. I want it simple. I want it to say cast on this many stitches and knit this many rows, but it wasn't written that way. So I did make a prototype. That's going to be an upcoming video of a hoodie. It's not a hoodie, like it's not a sweater with a hood on it. It's just the hood. And I actually like the way it turned out, but the ribber on my flatbed machine was not working correctly. And I could not fix it in the amount of time I had. So I only had knitting time. I didn't have time to do repairs. So that will be another day. But I tried doing a mock rib. I would say that it was not successful. But it turned out differently. It didn't turn out wrong. It just turned out differently. No mistakes, just creative alternatives. And I do think that is how you have to look at learning any kind of skill. It isn't about doing it perfectly. It's not about getting this selvage edge 100% perfect every time. Even if you're selling things, come on. We all have done the repair work to make things, you know, to make correct things that didn't go perfectly. We've all done it. Even on market stuff. Because that's the reality. That's the reality of being handmade. That's the art. That's the art part. Okay, I think we have 2 more to go. Maybe you're faster than I am. I hope so. I hope you're just zippy, zippy, zippy. I'm not. Okay. Uh-oh. Why didn't we come out? Oh, that's because I put this one in the wrong one. Whew, glad it was right there. All right, gotta grab this. Okay, put this needle back. I got the wrong needle popping out here. Pop that back on there. Come on. There we go. Should have been this one. Sometimes the angle of this machine is very awkward. Okay, one more to go. That one. Yay. Okay, I have my heel spring engaged, which you cannot see, but it is engaged. And I'm going to knit, well, this, let's see, let's start my counter over, and I'm going to knit 85 rows. Okay, so we're finishing up our last row here. And this is where we're going to do the heel of the sock. And we're going to replace the ribbon needles on the same side as the heel, because you want the you want this part of the foot, the bottom of your foot, to be plain knitted, and the top of your foot is where we have put ribbing. Okay, it's a little hard to see with this print, but that's what we're doing. So we are starting heel right here, and we're going to remove the ribbon needles on the back half of the half of the machine where the heel is. So I work my heels on the front of the machine, and therefore I'm going to, this part of the sock is the bottom of the foot. And so I'm going to start right here where the my pink dot is here, and I'm going to start installing my cylinder needles right there. Now I need my rubber dial to stay engaged until it gets past this point, and then I need to take it out of work. The rubber will remain on the machine because when we engage it again, we will when we engage the rubber dial again, we're going to take the pin out over here to disengage it. We're going to take it out of work. But when we put it back into work, we want the ribbing to continue on the top part of the foot. Now, some people like to take the stitches off the rubber dial and knit the heel without, oh, I keep grabbing the wrong size stitches, or the wrong size needles. They like to knit the heel so that they can check and make sure they haven't dropped stitches. But I don't really have to see that, because I generally know if I drop a stitch. But not always, but they're also repairable if you do happen to miss one. But so I don't take them off the, ultimately I think it's faster if you don't have to remove the rubber. But if you want to, I mean, I did it first just because I wasn't sure I could do a heel and not see what I was doing. But there is a point when you do so many heels, not much changes. So there's less room for error. I mean, not that there isn't room for error, but you make less mistakes the more you do something, the more you practice. So I'm almost all the way around to my other mark, and I will lift the top of the foot. I'm going to lift out of work while I work the heel. It's not critical that you engage the dial exactly when these needles start to knit. I have them all done. What is critical, however, is that you don't forget to take it out of work and the ribber starts to engage on this side of the machine. You can't quite see this, but from D going forward to A, you need that ribber dial out of work. The way we do that in my machine, I just remove this pin. Now that dial's going to sit there, and the cylinder or the needles on the cylinder will be knitting, but I'm not going all the way around because as you would normally do for a heel, I'm going to raise those stitches out of work, those needles out of work. So I'm going to advance forward a little bit. And we're going to go over here and make sure that from that mark, all of those needles are now lifted. And there's really, probably should knit these last couple of, there, that is now knit. So now that is completely disengaged. I'm going to go past that needle, hitting something. What am I hitting? Usually, yeah, there's a needle not completely raised. And we're going to start raising our needles for the heel. And then this is just a regular heel, for which I'm going to engage my heel weights. Where's that mark? This you're kind of doing blind, right? Because you can't really see what you're doing. I am engaging my heel weights. I just do it by feel. You can kind of see your knitting sort of bogs down a little. Okay, I raise that needle. So I'm going to go back. And I usually do the Creelman heel. So first I decrease one stitch on each side, always on the side as the yarn carrier or the carriage. And I do find that probably because I can't see what I'm doing, I have to move those weights. I do have to watch those end stitches. There we go. Raise that needle. Up. The weight up. had one not knit, and of course it's a black stitch. Oh, they're so hard to see. Okay, lift that one. I go till I have 12 stitches for the heel because this is a 72 cylinder and I am doing a wide sock on purpose. Yes. Okay, lift. And now we're going to start increasing. So I go 1 up, 2 down. I realize it's hard for you to see that because of the ribbon dial. 1 up, 2 down. So the 1 up is on the same side as the yarn carrier. The 2 down are on the opposite side. Why do we do that? Well, I find that when I do that, I don't tend to drop stitches on the edges. So on this side, we're going to raise 1, on this side, 2 down. 1 up, 2 down. 1 up, 2 down. Making sure your latches stay open on the 2 down. If you put them down too far, they will slip shut. 1 up, 2 down. 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 1 up, upper, 2 down. Up, down. Up, down. Up, down. Up, oh, I dropped a stitch. No, it's right where I don't want to drop a stitch. Well, guess what? I gotta take that out. I gotta take the ribbon dial out anyway. 1 up. And 2 down. Doggone it. This is right at the end too. Well, guess what you get to learn how to do today? And this isn't a bad thing because this happens, right? So how do we do this? We've got our ribbon dial in place. We got these stitches here. So that means what? We got to take out the ribbon needles in order to access where I dropped the stitch. This is why some people don't really want to do it this way, but I can show you that it's not that hard. Okay, handy dandy bobby pins. You're going to take your needle that has the ribbon stitch on it and you're going to put that stitch on either a stitch holder. I use bobby pins. And the reason I use bobby pins is because they act like a handle. I can grab it and it's long enough that I can get out of the way of the stitch. And if I have to do some kind of repair to a stitch or pick up stitches, I have that little handle of the bobby pin. It is very useful, as is in this case. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is crank. Like I can only move my crank so far, but because this is out of work, I can move the top tappet plate and get at all of the stitches that I have to put on bobby pins. So this is a bonus. You get to see how I fix a mess up one of my frustrations with YouTube videos is that you don't get to see what do they do when they mess up. And I want to know how to fix stuff without trial and error. So you can learn from all my trial and error. So I'm transferring the rubber stitches onto stitch holders. In my case, I'm using bobby pins. And then I am going to remove the rubber dial and pick up the stitch that I dropped, which is in the very place that I really, really don't like dropping stitches. All right. There is the corner of the heel. In this case, it was the heel. As you finish that heel, there's quite a bit of downward pressure on those stitches. And generally, when you do the Creelman heel, because you're doing 1 up, 2 down, I don't drop those stitches, but for some reason, probably so I could show you how to fix it, that is not what happened. My furnace is running. We've had a real cold snap here. I am in Michigan, the beautiful Great Lakes state, and my furnace is running non-stop, almost, not quite. We have a wood stove auxiliary that we could use as supplemental, and we do, but not today. All right, almost there. Let's see if I can do this without dropping another one. Okay, so again, we're fixing my little snafoodle, because I dropped a stitch right at the end of my heel. I'd rather pick it up now than fix it after I knit the foot. You see, there's a lot of pressure on these end stitches, and that's why I dropped it. But we're going to fix it. Okay, now point the bobby pins toward the outside a little bit. You just don't want to be catching the rubber. And I am going to remove this weight and maybe some of this. Not going to take all the weight off the heel, but some of it. Maybe. There we go. I got it. Now, push straight up on your rubber dial. Now see, it hadn't run very far, so I'm glad I did it. Find my little hooky thing. And what I like to do, actually, is take a bobby pin and intercept that stitch before it runs any farther. Now see, this is a complicated part in my opinion, because there are 2 wrap stitches on that needle, as well as the stitches themselves. Okay, I'll try and do this with as much as I can so you can see it. And I always tell people when I teach this or demonstrate this, that this is when I think I don't pay my dentist enough, because I have this great space. Okay, there's 1, and there's a loop, and the stitch itself is actually this yellow 1. Okay. Now, I am going to remove this bobby pin, but just so that I can hook it on the actual stitch, because I had it hooked on 2 of them. Now, here's where the magic happens. I leave this bobby pin. Let's see if I can get closer. All right, I leave this bobby pin attached. Here's my stitch right here. I leave that bobby pin attached to it because that way if I'm fixing my stitches, and in this case, I'm doing this, this is why. Okay, this is not a purl stitch, or it is a purl stitch, but we're looking at it on the wrong side, right? So we actually need to come this way because do you see how these stitches are being formed? These are purl stitches. Oh, look, here's another one. I didn't know I dropped that one. That is a cylinder stitch. All right, we'll just grab that. So this shows you the difference. This stitch, I'm going to go behind the bars and pick up those stitches. Sorry, I know you can't see this part, but the stitch itself is the green one, and I'm going to insert this bobby pin on that green stitch like that. And I'm going to pick up the bars from the back side because these are knitted and I'm on the wrong side, so it's going to look, so I'm picking up the bars. Voila. For those of you who have not learned to use your latch tool, it is your friend. Go past the latch, put the next bar in the above on the latch, and then close it and pull it up. Now let's put this on there. Okay, there, it's done. I'm just going to leave that bobby pin for now. No, I'm not. That will be confusing. There we go. Now this one, this is a purl stitch and we're on the wrong side, so you're actually going to pick it up this direction, past the latch, pick up the bar, past the latch, pick up the bar, past the latch. And we're going to pick up the bar, past the latch, and let's get my tool in here. Pick up that bar. Now we need to pick up this loop around, and we need to place both of those back on there. Now, whoopsie, that was just my wrapped needle. Because the location of this is right before the mark. Where is it? There we go. Right before the mark. There, we did it. Okay, this is the first rubber needle. So this is the mark. The stitch we just picked up was this one. So what it was it isn't a knit stitch now, but it was a rib, this is from when we had all the rubber needles in. Okay, and we can now take out this. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and finish this heel. That means I got to drop these on the inside so they don't get hooked on my yarn carrier. So some people like to do it this way, just right from the get-go, because they don't want to risk dropping stitches. So where were we at? We were going around, raise this one, 2 down over here, and ooh, we don't have any weight on here. This will be my last row of my heel, which means then I have to put my ribbon back on. So now you've learned how to troubleshoot that if you drop a stitch and you have your rubber dial in place. I'm going to put these back on just to get them knitted off, and put this one somewhere here maybe. Move this one up. Move this one up. All right. And lift these two. All right. Now move your bobby pins to the outside. And we're going to put that rubber back in place while my yarn carrier is parked here. Okay, but all these need to come back to the outside. This would be a good time to take the weight off again. Back to the outside. Do, 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 do. There we go. Let's pull them up. Pull it up. So every stitch that's going on the ribber is now hanging on a bobby pin on the outside of my work. And setting the ribber in there is not going to interfere with those stitches. But I do want it closer to this side there. Okay. And we're going to install these needles. Now, because this isn't engaged, don't forget, go till you hear it hit against the pin. Make sure that you're not catching on any of our stitch holders. That's right. There we go. Is that it? See, sometimes if it's not clicking because there's too much yarn in the way from knitting. No, where's the pin? Where is it? What's happening? I'm not feeling that pin under there. Where's it? Huh. I don't know what we're hitting on. Well, let's take these off. Maybe it's because of the weights. There. Okay. Here we go. We're going to pull this out. Where is that pin? There it is. Okay. Pin against the fin. And after we install the first maybe the first 2 rubber needles here. Then we are going to put the drive pin into the rubber. There we go. So you can use that bobby pin just to loop that stitch on there. It's very simple done that way. I'm going to put weight back on my machine so that these stitches don't float off. And these are going into work. And I'm going to install one more needle before I put the drive pin in. Right there. Pull that up around the end of the needle and remove the bobby pin stitch holder. Latch open. Remove the stitch holder. Try not to get it caught on everything around it. There we go. Done. Now, I think I can engage that. It's in work, which is what we want. Replace my pin. Perfect. All right, off we go. These things are not hard to do. They're just sometimes time consuming. Make sure the latches are open. We can start cranking around. Those needles should start coming out, picking up stitches. And we have 2 more rubber needles to install. There we go. In work, latch is open. Check and double check. Now I'm going to crank 60 rows. Restart my counter. And put some weights back where my heel is. There we go. And there's my 60 rows. So now I'm going to choose to put the cylinder needles in so that I can crank my waist yarn around, and also it allows me time to double check to make sure that I don't have any dropped rib stitches. Okay, so I'm going to add in the rest of these cylinder needles and remove my ribber. Then we're going to work the toe of the sock, which I work on the same side as I do the heel because I like to graft my toes on the top of the foot. So pulling off my ribber needles for the 2-2 rib sock with ribbing on the foot. Oops, I flipped a needle out. There we go. Kind of crank around. I want to stop at my mark here just to change yarns and apply my waist yarn. There it is. Okay. Voila. Very good. No drop stitches. All right, so I'm almost to my mark. We're going to change to the waist yarn. I'm going to leave enough to graft my toe. Oh, wait. I haven't done the toe yet. See? That's okay. We're golden. No worries. I don't want the waist yarn yet. Oof. But what I do want to do is raise my stitches. So we'll start over here. Now, because I didn't start raising these soon enough, I'm going to have to knit a couple extra stitches and then unknit them, but that's not a problem. See all the little tricks you're learning from me today. So I had 4 stitches there that I didn't want to knit on this round. So we're just going to pick that up. I'm trying to do this so my hand's not in the way. I'm going to pick up on the weight a little bit. And we're just going to flip this stitch back over. There we go. Unknit it. There. And pick it up. And on a flat bed, you can just pop them over, and I've done it on here too, but it I want to cooperate. So we grab the stitch, put it over the top, and here's number 3. Making sure those latches stay open. And the last one of my unknitting, we're going to raise this needle, and we're going to raise these 4 needles, and we're going to make sure that we have some yarn in the carrier. As it comes back over here, I'm putting my weights back down. All right, let's get this. I'm going to hand feed this a little bit right here because I made a mistake. That wasn't really a mistake. It was a, yeah, it was a mistake. All right, I'm going to hand feed this over to the other side. A little tension on it. I'm going to lift this stitch and go back. Now, I'm going to raise my camera a little, and we're going to do a faux Russian join. Let's pull it up here. I have my yarn coming out of the yarn mast, just like normal. I'm going to make a little loop, looping back in there, back in my work. I'm going to feed this yarn in this loop and hold the tail, and we're going to crank past. This needs to be going in my needles here. Crank past where I want to go. Make sure you don't lose that loop as it's feeding in there. Kind of hang on to that. Come back around. Lift my needle. I don't think that one knitted. There we go. We're going to lift that one. And there we go. We've added in our yarn. Put the heel spring back on. There, we're back running. That was all from just cutting off the yarn too soon. Silly me. This is just the tail of that add-in, not a problem. When we're done and have it off the machine, we'll make that all beautiful. Time for heel springs. No, not heel springs, heel weights. Pull them up. Awesome. There we go. Okay. I am once again demonstrating the Creelman heel and toe. 1 up, 2 down. Right now we are decreasing, which is just 1 up on the needle, the yarn carrier side or the carriage side. Moving my weights along as I go if I need to, and it appears I do. That's been lifted. All right, 1 up, 2 down, 1 up, So how do you know when you have to move the weights? Well, when those stitches are reluctant to come off the needle, they don't want to knit off, then it's time to move your weights. So I lifted that one because you can tell by where the yarn is, and I'm going to put 2 down. 1 up, 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 2 down. Checking that my latches are open, and now is the time I'm going to apply that waste yarn and crank it off the machine. Again, my color change happens over here. Wait until that latch engages, and then pull some yarn off to graft my toe. Not my toe, the sock toe. I want to graft my toe. That would hurt. All right, did that. Waste yarn. Maybe. Off we go. Making sure my latches are open. Uh-oh. Look at that. How did that happen? So I wanted to hop back on and show you the salvage edge that we made on this project, and it did come out very nice, and I did not have any dropped loops. So I think the key there, I was picking up the wrong one, obviously, but no drop stitches, no dropped loops, and I rather like the way that looks. Of course, this is a fresh off the machine, so it's a little bit spread out. I'm guessing that when we do launder this, and you know, and it is been washed, and I guess that's what laundered means, isn't it? Yeah, well, it's that kind of day. All right, so there we are. I'm going to call this, let's see, I do a 3, it's really 3 rows, and then 1 row to seal it. So I believe in the book she calls it a 2-1, but I'm going to call it, mine is a 3-1 because I can't get it to work with 2 rows. Maybe you can. Good for you. I may keep trying, but now that I know what it can look like, okay, but mine is the 3-1 Selvage. Patricia makes stuff. All right. I hope you had fun today, and I will see you next time.